This program is intended for informational purposes only and does not contain medical advice. As always, please contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition. Welcome to Hot and Bothered. I'm your host, Melyssa Ford. This is the space where we get real about sexual health, wellness, relationships, and all the life-affirming conversations that remind us what it means to live fully and authentically. Nothing's off limits. Everything is on the table. So let's dive in. On today's episode, we're stripping the romance off of marriage and looking at it for what it is, a legally binding business deal. And no one understands that better than family law divorce attorney Brandi Reeves. She's the strategist behind some of the wildest splits, the woman who can dissect a prenup like a crime scene, and the attorney who knows exactly how power, money, and ego reshape a marriage. We're talking prenups, postnups, and the reality that love may be emotional, but the law is not. Let's get into the fine print of forever. I'm just kind of going through in my head all of these stories that I've heard about men just being terrified of, the court system, child support, feeling like it favors the mother over the father.
I think that traditionally the courts did favor the mother.
Did.
Things are changing. The landscape is changing. Fathers are more engaged, they're more involved, because I also believe that previously the mothers worked inside the home and fathers worked outside the home.
I'm sure that you have seen a lot of really heartbreaking things that have altered your perception on life, love, humanity.
It's tough. It is. And the law will talk a lot about secondary trauma, because as lawyers, we are also called counselors. We counsel our clients on the pros, the cons, the risk, and the benefits. And a lot of things that they're going through is really, really tough. My clients are impoverished. They are abused and neglected children simply because a lot of the things circle around their inability to access food, inability to access medical, inability to access education, right? And then I have this spectrum of clients who are high profile, who are wealthy, that are fighting over the pots and the pans.
There is a divorce attorney. His name is James Sexton. He is making the rounds. He's been on every single podcast. And I guess he's been practicing divorce law, or would it be called marital law?
Family law.
Family law. Okay. So he's been practicing for well over 25 years and he's very theatrical and he's got a lot of great stories and he's handled, people of high net worth and stuff like that. And, so when I interview people who have chosen a specific field of law or medicine, I really am like, how did you narrow in on that being the field of law that you wanted to practice? So I'm going to start with some backstory. Where did you grow up? And did you always want to be an attorney? And what was the decision? What was the moment where you realized you wanted to specialize in marital law?
I always wanted to be a lawyer. From the time I could remember, I've never not wanted to be a lawyer. And I tell people all the time, if I had needed a backup plan, I was in trouble because I did not have a backup plan. My father is a career police officer. My mother's a social worker, or was a social worker at the jail. Mm-hmm. And so I think just naturally.
Oh, well, law enforcement's in the family.
It just runs in our blood. It's a family business. It runs in the blood. And I started my career in child welfare, in juvenile, representing parents whose children had been removed by the department for abuse or neglect allegations. Mm. And so at the intersection of that is family. It goes from poverty, right? And then we began to talk about the intersection of criminality. So I do criminal defense as well. And then that takes us into family law. We're talking about child custody. We're talking about child support, divorce. And so that's where all of these three different legal areas, family law, criminal, child welfare, all come together and affect not just the Black family, but families as a whole in America in its totality.
I'm sure that you have seen a lot of really heartbreaking things that have altered your perception on life, love, humanity?
It's tough. It's tough. It is. And the law will talk a lot about secondary trauma because as lawyers, we are also called counselors. We counsel our clients on the pros, the cons, the risk, and the benefits. And a lot of things that they're going through is really, really tough. And so I have the opportunity to work with clients in child welfare, which generally focuses on my clients are impoverished. They are abused and neglected children simply because a lot of the things circle around their inability to access food, inability to access medical, inability to access education, right? And then I have this spectrum of clients who are high profile, who are wealthy, that are fighting over the pots and the pans, right? And so it's very difficult, or sometimes it is difficult to code switch because on one day I could be dealing in juvenile court with a parent who can't afford, right, to be their
Basic
children,
necessities.
the basic necessities of parenthood. And then in that same day, I'm in superior court fighting between two parents, a mother and a father, both equally loving their children, just can't agree on who loves the child more, who should take care of the child, right? And so, but at the center of it all, I love advocacy. I love advocating for whomever it is that has hired me to do the job. It's amazing to see the family reunited, if that's divorce or child custody or child welfare. It's very heavy stuff though, for sure.
I was going to ask you about clients selecting you. And obviously, usually in terms of selection, it would probably be people of means and higher net worth that make the selection. You're probably, if somebody's more, living below the poverty line, this is more of a kind of like on the sign to you kind of situation.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to clients selecting you, what do you find is the average, makeup of the client who selects you? Because you are a Black woman attorney, and having dealt with, looking for lawyers in the past, people have ideas as to who they think is going to best represent them. So who do you find solicits you the most?
Men, dads, the fathers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they believe that the mothers are getting Black females. And so they come thinking, well, you're a Black female, right? And so I think that if my spouse or the mother of my child has a Black female, I want one too, right? And so they come with the expectation that we're bulldogs, that we are fierce, that we are ferocious. And I'm all of those things, by the way. And so they come with the expectation that we're going to bring the same energy that opposing counsel will bring, because that's the world that they live in and that we live in, for sure.
Let me see what questions I've got here on this, because I was writing these at 5:00 in the morning.
I understand. Listen.
But I will say that I've always had a lot of interest. I've never been married. I have no children. And as I get older and I'm watching so many of my friends getting divorced, I feel like I dodged a bullet. I kind of feel like I dodged a bullet. It just feels like, in the grand scheme of things, the friends and the people that I know that are still happy, and still, married to one another and don't want to be divorced, maybe 1 out of 20. They're a statistical anomaly at this point, And so I will just, leave it there, that I feel like I dodged a bullet.
The truth is that marriage is a choice. Love is a choice. It is a conscious decision. Every day you wake up and be like, I'm not gonna kill you today, right? I'm gonna let you live today, right? And after 10 years, you look back and you're like, wow, we made it. Like, we really did it, because it takes active work, right? Anything takes work. Building takes work. Building a career takes work. Just like building a family takes work. And it takes investment from both spouses, right? Male, female, 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 whatever your choices are, it requires work and a conscious decision and a contractual agreement at the end of the day that we are going to do this together. And it's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 100-100. Sometimes it's 50-50. Sometimes it's a different percentage.
Yeah, you come up where I come up short, you come up strong, and vice versa.
That's the expectation. But I also say at the end of the day, nothing's perfect, right? And we all look for somebody to push us in a wheelchair when we turn 85.
Hopefully.
Prayerfully, right? Prayerfully, the expectation is that we're able to push through whatever the drama is, whatever the differences are, and see that the common goal is, even if you might have children, success is to outlast the next.
What were your thoughts on love and marriage as a young girl? Did you grow up with, fairy tale notions of knight in shining armor? Because us women, we are conditioned as young girls to center men being chosen and getting married in our lives, and everything else is kind of accessory.
For sure.
So I'm wondering, you know, what images did you see growing up that may have shaped the way that you looked at love and marriage? And maybe that's different at where you are now in life.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think it's not a lot that you marry your mom or you marry your dad. Unfortunately, my mother passed away when I was 9 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, well, thank you. But my father raised me and did a really good job, never remarried, because he was very clear that he never wanted another female to take the place of my mother. And so he made very conscious decision. He's now 82 years old, has never been remarried. Doesn't mean he never had a girlfriend, right? But he never brought a woman into the household. And to be honest, up until I was 30, he never said girlfriend, or he never brought a woman into the home. It was difficult now that I'm grown and I am married and I have two children of my own. Although I never hoped to be divorced, I've certainly thought about it, and I've thought, well, how will we navigate dating? How would this work when we have two minor children? Because I have an older brother as well. We're 3 years apart. And so he was left with two young children at a very young age and to raise us through adulthood. And so I wasn't raised in a two-parent household, not by choice, but by chance, right? And so those things still come with its own hangups. I didn't have a mother in my household. So I am rough around the edges, right? I am very tomboyish because I had two men in my household. I'm the baby. I'm the only girl. And so I have an older brother as well who was 18 years older than me. So that certainly shaped how I look at marriage. I'm very independent. I recommend keeping your own bank account. Okay. I have my own bank account, just in case things ever go left. That's how my father raised me. And I think just having a man in the household was very helpful to navigate life without a mother.
You're married.
I am married. 10 years.
So, and your husband
is an attorney. He is. Tell me about it.
Is he a divorce attorney? Because that would be amazing.
It's a rough household. No, he is in real estate. He's a real estate attorney, and we met in law school. And so we had the opportunity to kind of be shooting in the gym together, right? And so now we're off in our own careers and our own specialties, doing our own thing. And yes, it's 10 years in, two children of the marriage, and it has been a journey. Like I said, it's a choice. Every day we wake up, I choose you.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful if you continue to choose each other.
Absolutely.
So you've described yourself as part counselor. And so I'm imagining that you have had young people in front of you, or people who are just inexperienced, having never been married, who are discussing getting married, and they might be going down the pathway of talking about prenuptials. I'm wondering what are some of the things that you have told young couples, and what you would tell young couples about the anticipation of expectation. Healthy expectations in a marriage, communication, money styles, conflict resolution, family planning. These are all the things that are not in gift cards and, Hallmark cards and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So you can read as many books as possible on marriage and wealth in marriage, love in marriage, but there's no better teacher than experience, right? And so I want everyone to remember that the person that you marry is not the person that you will divorce. At the end of the day, those are not the same people.
Let's say that again.
The person you marry is not the person you divorce. Remember that, right? Because at the end of the day, it's happy. It's the honeymoon phase. It's the honeymoon stage. We're excited. We're looking into the future because we haven't really experienced a lot of hardship, especially if this is your first marriage, especially if this is your first child. There are a lot of bumps and bruises. There are a lot of things to navigate. And oftentimes when you're young, you don't have wealth. You don't have assets. You don't have the children. And so you don't feel like you had anything to protect at that time. Right. And so when we're talking about prenups, you certainly have the ability to go into a prenup, but oftentimes postnuptial agreements come into place when you start to realize, oh, my business is blossoming. Oh, our business is blossoming. How much of this belongs to you? How much of this will then belong to me? And when you're young and in marriage, you're not thinking about those things because wisdom is a wonderful teacher. And unfortunately, your life experiences are limited. And so you have no wisdom. And so it's difficult for you to know what you don't know because you don't know what to expect.
Most people think that the prenup would be the most difficult conversation, but I think a postnup would be so much more awkward.
That's tough.
We're already in it.
We're in it.
We're in it. We got married. We got signed the certificate, went on the honeymoon and stuff like that. And now our assets, joint or separately, have started to create, gain in profit and whatever else. And just in case we don't last, I need to make sure that this is protected and you can't touch it. How do you say that to somebody that you are in, a loving relationship with, anticipating the just in case it doesn't work out and I don't want to hate you.
You have to find someone equally yoked. So it's not just biblical. Like you better find them.
People have gotten mad at me for saying that unless I find somebody that I'm equally yoked with, I don't want it.
It's not just biblical. Like you have to find someone who has as much to lose as you, as much to gain as you. And obviously iron sharpens iron, right? And you don't always want to be the smartest one in the room, but we better be neck and neck. Right? Because I need to be able to ensure that you have the same gains as I have, that you have the same desires that I have. We have the same shared goals, right? Because that is a difficult situation. I was in the gym shooting with you, remember? Because neither of us had anything when we first got here. But now somehow you've managed to find this level of notoriety or this level of fame or this level of wealth. And now he has created a wealth gap. Generally it is the money, right, that creates the gap and creates the dissension in the relationship. And so the postnuptial agreement is easier when you have someone who also has assets to protect, who also has something to lose if you in fact decide that I'm going to be the taker and not the giver, right? And so postnuptial agreements are definitely much more difficult than prenups because like you said, you're already in it and they feel as though they were with you before you had.
Okay, well, let's back up and talk about the prenup. So what type of prenups actually exist? I mean, I'm sure that it's not just, a one-stop kind of cut and dry, plug and play kind of situation. I've heard about some really, really, really weird stipulations that people have put in their contract. And usually it's men of high net worth that are marrying somebody that they just, I don't know, may have pulled off a pole or something like that. You can't gain weight. You can't, obviously you can't cheat. Otherwise it nullifies the agreement. You have to lose the baby weight after 6 months or something. Yeah, I've heard about these kinds of things. So talk to us a little bit about the types of prenups that actually exist and the different structures and formats.
Most places in America allow you to contract anything, right, including your marriage. But however, there's limitations, right? Most states will not allow you to contract your child, any children, or child support, right? But typically anything else, is up for grabs, right? And so when I say you can't contract your children or child support, in a prenuptial agreement, you can have lifestyle clauses, right?
Tell me what that
says, hey, if this is the amount of money that you're allowed to spend per month, this is how much weight you must lose after a baby. These are the things in order for you to obtain X, Y, and Z. These are the conditions of the lifestyle that you must live and maintain, right? And because it's a contract, again, prenups, we're all happy. So presumably I'm going into it with a clear understanding with at least some level of counsel. And so with that being said, it allows you to make a clear and conscious decision about what you would like to see occur. And so what you're talking about is a lifestyle clause. We also have sunset clauses, right? That says if I stay married for a certain period of time, the prenuptial agreement is void, right? Or you get more money or less money, depending on how long it is that we stay married, right? Because to your point, for a female, let's say someone who is marrying an NFL player, right? She's the fiance. I'm gonna use Michael Penix. I just read something about Michael Penix. He said he takes no advice from anybody other than his fiance and his personal NFL coach. That's it. So clearly he trusts his fiance very, 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 very much.
What's contract like?
That's what I would like to know.
That's a lot. Child, good night.
That's a lot of trust.
It's a lot of trust
that you're putting in her, right?
Mhm.
And so for her position is, well, I was shooting with you, so I might sign this, but after 10 years and I've proven my love and loyalty, I've proven that I'm still going to be here. I would like for the terms to diminish, to decrease, or to completely dissipate in a thin air after I've shown you that I've earned it, right? I've earned the marriage. I've earned the right to the retirement. I've earned a portion of whatever it is that I believe that I've worked with you to gain, right? And so those are sunset clauses. You have traditional prenuptial agreements, which are just simply we agree on how much to split, how much of the income we are to split, how much of the assets we are to split, which is where Portia and Simon Gubaye were at some point in the marriage and some point in the limelight.
That's interesting that you bring them up because I have Portia in my notes. I actually have Portia in my notes. I have Tiana Taylor in my notes, and I have Cardi B and Offset and Stephon Diggs because
it's nasty.
We're gonna get it to them. But Portia, in cases like Portia where the prenup is rumored, what makes the prenup airtight and what makes it vulnerable? Because it seems like with a good attorney, there's always wiggle room, there's loopholes, or whatever the case is. Is there a situation where parts of the prenup can be negotiated during the divorce?
Absolutely. So it's everything is negotiable. But what if I understand what Portia and Simon had going on is that he basically was like, because I signed the prenup, but we weren't married long enough. I signed the prenup, but the house was mine before I married Portia. Well, you knew that when you signed the prenup. So all of those things were clear cut understandings before you went into agreement with Portia regarding the home, regarding how those items would be split. And so I believe that's ultimately how Portia was able to come out on top, is because, again, when you were in right sound mind, when there were no issues of deportation, when you believed that you were truly in love, you agreed that Portia could have the home regardless of how long you all stayed married. And his position was that we've only been married 15 months. She just moved in here yesterday. Like, why do I have to give it to her? I've had this home for 5 years. And it's like, well, you contracted that. When you were in love, you did not see the forest for the trees. And so now your home is gone and you've been deported.
And that's on that.
Unfortunate situation.
I'm so sorry. I don't want to make light of somebody's like really screwed up situation, but one thing that I have heard men say when they are in the process of getting divorced or they're separated and paperwork hasn't been filed is they're trying to hide assets. They're trying to hide money so that it can't be part of the negotiations. How does the courts prevent that from happening?
Well, people of high means understand the importance of having money in a trust, right? Because once you place money in a trust, especially of money or assets, a lot of things can go into a trust, right? And so that's how a lot of wealthy individuals are able to not necessarily hide assets, but protect them. As a lawyer, we won't call it hiding, we'll call it protecting, right? Because if I have stipulations and conditions on each trust, that prevents me from being able to contract those things away because I've put benchmarks in place to prevent you from being able to access those items, right? And that could be the home, that could be my business is placed in a trust, my LLC is placed in trust. And so once you're able to navigate those things, it makes it difficult for even the court to step in and say, hey, unless those things were done unless those things were done after the marriage, because most people need to be crystal clear that whatever is gained during the marriage is generally presumed to be marital property. And you have to backtrack or create contracts to ensure that anything gained, any income or assets gained during the marriage is not considered marital property. And that's how prenups and postnuptial agreements come into play.
Wow, it's got my brain spinning.
It's a lot.
I'm just thinking about if I ever did get married, what I would have to hire you first of all to get my prenup together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because everything that I have acquired on my own, I did so with blood, sweat, tears, scraping by. I will be damned if anybody
Rightfully yours.
gets access to that. I don't think so. So let's go to Tiana Taylor. She revealed that they were separated long before the public even knew. So legally, what's the difference between separating privately versus separating formally on paper? I didn't even know that that was a thing, separating on paper. It's because when it comes to men trying to date me, unless the ink is dry on divorce papers, I want nothing to do with you. Don't even try it. So when they do the whole, we've been separated for years, I'm like, well, what are you waiting for?
What does that mean?
Exactly, because I don't want, that sounds like purgatory to me. I want nothing to do with that, okay? I'm sure there's so many women that have had the experience of dating a man who has been separated for years from somebody and thought, oh, it's just a formality. Womp, womp, womp.
Not. It's not. Different states do it differently, and some states require a separation period. And so that's why separation is important.
Let me ask about that. Do the states require a separation before the dissolution of marriage in order to see if you guys really actually want to go through with that?
Yes, especially depending on what the terms of the divorce are, right? A typical and traditional term for divorce is irreconcilable differences. That's a general term. We just can't agree. We agree to disagree, not necessarily money. It's not necessarily adultery, or I just don't want to put it out there, right? And so couples would just say irreconcilable differences. What really counts is the terms of how you all were actually separated, how you all actually came to be divorced. In Georgia, you don't necessarily have to live apart in order to be divorced, but you do have to stop having sex. Right? So separation is based upon the date that you stop having sex. If you stop and you trip, you fall, the date goes back. The clock starts over. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in Georgia. But in other states, the date of separation is the date in which you actually leave the home. Right? And so what you have is in different states, you have families arguing. Like one of the housewives, her husband lives in the basement. Right, but they are legally separated. She's dating on Housewives of Atlanta, right? And so
that is awkward.
It's very awkward in those circumstances. How do you date? How do you navigate those things? But again, that goes to the date of separation and what those assets will look like as a result of when you all separated. So it depends on what state you're in, what is actually considered separation. But generally, in all states, when you stop having sex with your spouse, even if you live in the same household.
So no hate.
I mean, don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't make up the breakup. It's nice. This is not going to end well. If it's over, it's over. Close the curtains.
When it comes to the dissolution of marriages, especially in the celebrity world, child, we can't look at our phones without seeing the most recent update as to what's going on in their personal business. And this is business I don't even really want to know. And I see in the comments that people just, the favorite thing is, can you take us out the group chats?
3.5 business days and we moved on.
Right, exactly. So here's the question. When it's constant media updates and narratives are going crazy and everybody is speculating and, podcasters are sitting up here talking about, the impending divorce between two very famous people. Did those narratives affect the case ever? The public media narratives?
I think it affects how the parties handle each other, right? Because be clear, when you finally make it into a courtroom for a divorce proceeding, you're asking a third party to decide how you live your life, right? And they go home to their families. When they're done, the gavel hits, they get off the bench and they go home to their families. Your lawyers too. I go home to my husband and my two children once you guys are done arguing about the past and the fights, right? And so it's extremely important, especially when you are a celebrity status, that you block out the noise. Let's go back to basic standards, what your grandmama told you, keep your business, right? Because what you find is that the things that you and your spouse have already dealt with, we were separated for years. We've already been separated for 8 months before social media got to it. And now there's an additional wave of information that you may have already processed. Right? That you and your husband or spouse have already dealt with personally, but now that the public has gotten to it, now we have to relive that trauma. Now we have to relive it in the spotlight. And oftentimes now you get defensive. So maybe you were forgiven behind the scenes. Maybe you and your spouse did make up, but now you have people judging the fact that you got back with your spouse so soon, like Cardi. As soon as they separated and she ended up with another baby by Offset, right? And she said, it's my business. I'm grown. I've decided to do what I wanted to do. And I appreciate her for that, because you have to make your own decisions, live your own lifestyle, because what we're doing now is living for social media, and social media is a lie.
Amen and hallelujah. Cardi, Offset, and Stefan Diggs. We all know that Cardi is pregnant with her 4th child, and it is not Offset's. It is Stefan Diggs' child. And she is going through a divorce. So in that particular situation, I had no idea that this would even be a factor. But apparently, the fact that you're going through a divorce but become pregnant with somebody else's child, that has an impact on the divorce legally, and also has an impact on who the courts consider the child's father legally.
It's messy. It is a disaster.
Let us know fact from fiction.
Especially in the state of Georgia, any child born of the marriage is considered to be the legal child of the husband. Separation is great, but you are legally married. And if you are legally married and you bear a child of that marriage, the child is presumed to be the legal child of your spouse. So unfortunately, at this time, I understand Cardi had her baby. Congratulations to Cardi and Stefan. But the truth of the matter is, until there's paperwork that is filed and signed, Offset is considered to be the legal father of that child. And it works in the opposite way as well. You can be the biological father, but because you are not married to the mother, you are not the legal father. So you have no rights to that child. Even if Cardi was not married to Offset, Stefan would have no legal right to the child, because he is not going through the legitimation process to make him the legal father. You can have a DNA test. That's wonderful. That makes you the biological dad, and that allows us to put you on child support. Congratulations. But if you decide that you would like to actually have a relationship with your child, to the extent that you would like to spend time with your child, that you would like the authority to make decisions, key decisions about education, religion, medical, things of that nature, you need to be the legal father. And that requires some paperwork.
Okay, so this sounds like a situation that regular people would have to, navigate through. But these people are super famous, super high net worth, meaning they have a team of, legal representatives, et cetera, et cetera. So these rules don't necessarily apply, do they?
If I know Offset the way he's been pretending, the way he's been playing online, I can only imagine what he is putting Cardi through right now to get his name on that piece of paper to ensure that he is not considered to be the legal father of that child.
Ooh.
It requires paperwork.
So I have a question here that says, does marriage override DNA in some states? And I want to add to that question the calculation of child support and who's responsible.
The responsible party is the legal father.
Okay.
And
so that's why you said Offset would really like to have his name off of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I also want to be clear that you don't have to be the legal father to be placed on child support, right? Let's go back to being in poverty, right? There are individuals who go to the state for benefits, right? Food stamps, TANF, CAPS, that's child care assistance. In order for the state to assist you, they require you to put the father of your child on child support. He doesn't have to be the legal father of your child. You just have to tell them that that is who I believe to be the father of my child, and they will send him a child support notice. So you do not have to be the legal father to be placed on child support. You only have to be the legal father to request custody of your child.
So, but wait, what if, does a DNA test need to be presented in that scenario?
It doesn't need to be, but oftentimes.
So are you saying that somebody can actually lie and say he's the father of my child and he gets put on child support and there's no proof required?
It happens all the time. And so it's important that fathers are paying attention, that you don't ignore, right? Oftentimes you get in the mail and they chuck it, right? You can't do that. You have to actually go to court, make a statement. This is not my child. And you have the right to a DNA test. Absolutely. But oftentimes, that it may potentially be your child. And so they avoid the impression altogether. They avoid the letter altogether. But unfortunately, absolutely, you have the right to have a DNA test. You have the right to actually have them prove that you are the biological father of the child. However, if the mother says it, it's presumed to be correct.
Mm. Mm. I'm just kind of going through in my head all of the stories that I've heard about um men just being terrified of, the court system, child support, feeling like it favors the mother over the father, even just in terms of child custody. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that traditionally the courts did favor the mother.
Did.
Things are changing. The landscape is changing. Fathers are more engaged, they're more involved, because I also believe that previously the mothers worked inside the home and fathers worked outside the home.
Mhm.
Well, now we have a lot of non-traditional marriages, right? Those being heterosexual and homosexual, those with the females being the primary breadwinners. They're working outside the home, and then the fathers being homemakers, the fathers staying at home. Now in the age of Zoom and video conferencing, a lot of people work from home. And so that has certainly changed the landscape of how I believe the court looks to the ability of the father, the bonding of the parents between the father and the child, the bonding between the mother and the child. Let's talk about celebrities. Oftentimes, if we have a female celebrity, she's on the road. So who's at home with the child? Oftentimes, it's the dad. Let's talk Britney Spears and Kevin Federline, right? And so he was, although he had a career of his own, he was at home while Britney was able to be on the road, and he utilized that in order to get primary custody of her boys, for which she is still struggling to maintain a relationship, right? And so I think that as non-traditional families become more common, that the landscape of the court's rulings have changed as well to kind of mirror that fathers need equal time with the children.
I'm sure you've seen more than one situation where the less deserving parent ended up with primary custody.
I do. And family law is difficult. And I say that because it's about attitude. So I tell my clients, we are the ones going in. I need you to be cool, calm, and collected. So if they say something, I need you to smile, right? Because oftentimes the judges are getting a snapshot of your lifestyle. They have no idea what goes on a day-to-day basis. And so when you go into court, you're the aggressive one. You are the one that then the court begins to look at you and say, she's not necessarily unstable, but I don't trust that she's going to facilitate a relationship between the father and the child. I'm not getting the impression that she's emotionally stable to even understand the importance of the relationship between the father and the child. And so it is difficult when I have female clients to rein them in. I like to say I keep my client from a tight leash, because I need you to understand that you're not going to always win, right? It's about the best interest of the child when we're talking about family law. Family law, it's about the child, right? It's not about you. And I know that you want the child close to you because you're a mom and you have maternal instincts, but the court, in terms of legality, will look at both of you all as the parents and will want the father to spend an equal amount of time with the child if it's deserving.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are postponing getting married until later. And they're also postponing having children until later. A lot of women are freezing their eggs or freezing embryos. What happens to frozen embryos in the case of a divorce?
I think that's where prenups are important, or postnups are important, right? So before, you didn't have any children. Before, you didn't know you had any fertility issues when you first got married. But now you're happily married. You're 2 or 3 years into you all's career, and now you're ready to start your family. And it has now become apparent that either of you, or one of you, or both of you, are now incapable of producing a child the natural way. And so we go into the fertility route, which was an asset, for lack of a better term, that you did not have going into the marriage. And so now we have 6 embryos, and somehow we have 2 left over, but we're divorced. Now what happens? Why postnuptial agreement is important in those scenarios, because now the biological father, even if you're not divorced, is, even if you are divorced, it's still the biological father if you decide to go forward and have those embryos implanted because you still have dreams of motherhood, right?
I was going to ask, like, whose rights matter more in this particular situation?
Equal. And so in fertility clinics, when you all go through the embryo process, they will have you both sign basically a contract, right? That these are our embryos together, that we have equal rights. And so they will go into the divorce as a part of the assets. Is where do the embryos go? Do they need to be destroyed? Because what if the dad is like, I don't want to have a child with her any longer, right? And those things have not been discussed. And the court is still navigating that because fertility is still a very new area of law for a lot of us to navigate, especially in the realm of our LGBTQ community who are doing cross surrogates. They are cross adopting each other's children and things of that nature. So fertility is a new law, a new area of law, but it's booming. Right now.
Yeah, it sounds really complicated because, like you said, in the case of a couple who has several embryos and then they get divorced and the husband decides, I do not want you to implant those embryos in your uterus. I don't want to have a child with you. But let's just say she's nearing 40 or over 40 and the eggs that she preserved are her younger eggs. Is that a case that you've had to see, experience or adjudicate?
Not yet, but I absolutely
messy as hell.
Messy because I absolutely feel like it's coming because fertility clinics also get involved. So now when it's time to retrieve the embryo, they want to know where the spouse is, right? And now you have issues with the fertility clinics not willing to release the embryos to you because the father is no longer on board, right? And that becomes an issue between you, the fertility clinic, and your spouse or your former spouse, if that's the case. Because we have those issues even if you are not divorced. You're still currently married, but you all in a tumultuous place in your relationship to the extent that you are not now ready to have this child anymore when we once were. And now you believe you're ready and he says, no, I'm not. Now what do we do? Because you're married, it is the embryo of both of you all. And that's a difficult place to be.
That sounds like a headache that I never wanted.
It's a difficult place to be.
It sounds like it. So think about, the entire, span of your career and everything that you've seen as it relates to divorce. And think of like collectively, what is something that people don't realize about divorce until they're in the thick of it?
You think you're strong enough to deal with it and you're not. You think that you think you're emotionally strong, you think that you're mentally strong, but divorce takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on the entire family, especially if you have children. It takes a toll on your parents because it is rough to argue and fight, right? Even if you have nothing, you're generally fighting over emotions. You're generally fighting over how I feel, right? You're not fighting over real money. You're not fighting over real assets. You want to hurt the other person. For whatever reason, they hurt you somewhere during the course of the marriage. Now we've come to the point where it's time for a final dissolution and we just hurt. And you want to hurt the other person. And there's no compromise. There is no, okay, let's let this go, right? Because it's expensive. I'm expensive. Opposing counsel is expensive. If you want a garden ad litem, you have to pay them. They're expensive. A mediator is expensive. It costs money, right? And so I tell people, you want to give up your child's college tuition to me? I will gladly accept it. But is there something better that you and your spouse could be doing with the money, right? Is there something that you two can do to compromise to ensure that the well-being of your child or your business is taken care of, right? Especially if you all have gone into business together. And so I think that most people think that you're strong enough to say that, even the men. They crouched over in a fetal position, right? Thinking that they can handle it. And you can't because you don't oftentimes see the value in the other person until they're gone. So being able to come home to a home-cooked meal, even if it was only once a week. Being able to roll over into
somebody's arms and embrace.
Somebody's arms and embrace is not underrated. It actually does something to your adrenaline. It does something to your endorphins. That it adds value to you as a person, as an individual, to have close relationships. And so I think that one of the main things people realize is that I'm not as tough as I thought I was.
So when it comes to people considering, considering getting married and not wanting to, kill the romance with the business of marriage, the discussion of that, what's some language or framing that somebody could use in a conversation that might be, I don't know, less explosive or, just difficult?
And I think this is where dating is important, right? I think oftentimes people think that dating means monogamy.
Well, people love to say dating with intention these days. And I was just like, I don't know if everybody's on the same page as to what dating with intention actually means.
Yeah. And I don't think that means on date one that I tell you that I'm, exclusive. No, we're dating. And a part of dating is having these tough conversations. So you can decide before you get into fiance stages of, I remember what he said. I remember when we talked about postnuptial agreements or when we talked about prenups. So the language that I would suggest using is that, like, what are some of your life goals? So how would you protect those? So if we were to get married, would you want me to be a part of your business? What would my role be? So I see you're starting a business. Where do you see me in that business? I would love to support you in that. Where would I fit in?
Those are great questions.
Right? And then if you're a part of the business, then presumably there will be some arrangements made for you to be a foundational part of the business. And then you have some right to that asset, right? Or you ask a very direct question during dating so you can get his real visceral reaction is, how do you feel about prenups? What is I'm not sure how I feel. I haven't thought about it. I don't really have anything right now, right? What do you feel? And he doesn't need to know what you have because we're dating. So whether you have or don't have, I think having very direct conversations about what you all would do with that in the dating phase is extremely important.
You mentioned social media a little bit earlier. And I mean, nowadays, everything plays out on social media. Y'all, I don't understand how you like to have all your business out there all over the Facebook, all over the internets. I don't get it. Like, it's just take the battle inside. It's weird. Does social media actually like show up as evidence in divorce cases?
Absolutely.
Ooh, give us some tea, girl.
Absolutely. And one of my guilty pleasures is watching ratchet and ridiculous things on television and social media. And so I do follow this one young lady on social media, and she plays out her entire life, her marriage, her husband cheating, and we watch it. I watch it. Because for me it is a guilty pleasure. I'm dealing in very serious things all day, every day. And to see someone step into their authenticity and show that marriage is not roses. It is not always blueberries and sunshine. And sometimes there are valleys, and then there are mountaintops, and you have to work through all of those. And so it's extremely enlightening to see that she's just so authentic and transparent about her marriage. But to allow it to play out on social media is problematic, to be honest. It's entertaining, and you don't want your life to be entertaining, right? Like my grandma used to tell me, I'm not a clown, right? I'm not on display for people to watch and laugh at. And so when you're dealing with serious topics such as family, such as how we're going to resolve our personal marital issues, you don't need the opinions of other people who have absolutely no vested interest in your success or your happiness. They are there to be entertained. Don't do it.
What is one thing that people should stop posting immediately after the divorce proceedings have begun?
Anything derogatory regarding your spouse. Anything derogatory regarding your spouse.
Y'all hear that?
Anything derogatory regarding your spouse. Okay. It never works out in a court. Again, if you all aren't able to agree and you find yourself in a court of law, the court is always going to look for the aggressor. They are always going to generally try to bless the person who is less culpable, right? And you don't know. They have no idea. And so I have all the time my clients are yelling, she's crazy. She's crazy. She's insane. They don't see it. Why does everybody not see it? And it's because you're so worked up that you overshadow her inadequacies. You overshadow his aggression because you're so angry, because you are really just trying to find your voice, though. It's not that they are angry. You're angry. Okay. But you have to learn how to taper that so that the court can see that you are not the issue, that your spouse is the issue, so that the assets and estate can be divided properly and appropriately.
What in terms of like kids and co-parenting, what social media mistakes do parents make during custody disputes?
Oh, I was in court recently. Stop posting. Don't make a page for your child to post things about your spouse or about the mother of your child or the father of your child. Don't do that, because the court looks at that and says, you're not ready to co-parent. Right. And for me, my whole thing has always been, if you have a spouse that is willing to help you parent your child, why would you want to be a single mom? Why would you choose to if your child's safety and well-being are not at play? Now, what you see oftentimes is mom saying, oh, he don't know how to take care of the child. He'll learn. He'll learn. I tell my husband all the time, the kids go with you, the dog stays with me. Take the kids. Okay. Take the kids. Because you need help. Ultimately, as mothers, we need a break. As mothers, you need an opportunity to decompress. You need an opportunity to spend time with your girlfriends. And so if there is a father who is able, who is willing, able, and not going to place your child in danger, accept the help, because the child needs the whole parent. And that requires both the father and the mother to be healthy and whole as they grow into adulthood.
Okay. Well, let me ask you one last question before we do rapid fire. Just for everybody, peace of mind. From your experience, what is one thing that you wish every couple knew before they got married?
It won't be easy. Be prepared to be disappointed. Be prepared to be disappointed. Life comes at you fast. You will not always agree with your spouse. There will be mountaintops and there will be valleys, but you will survive. Did you die? If you live to see another day, by all means, try your very best to work it out. What you don't want is for, oftentimes we have a white female or a white male, because they're generally those that are on the bench to decide for you the trajectory of your lifestyle, the trajectory of your kid's life when you and your spouse are incapable of coming to the table as adults, mature adults, to work it out for the betterment of the children and the family. Prepare to be disappointed.
I think that might be why I never got married. I don't handle disappointment well. I'm sorry. All right, so I have this little game that I like to play. It's called Rapid Fire.
Let's play.
Rapid Fire. Cue the graphics. Okay, it's cute and just right off the top of your head. Answer quickly.
Okay.
Is this rapid fire? Okay, what's the perfect age to get married?
32.
Why 32?
Think you're out of your 20s and
I didn't know 32.
I
thought I knew.
Build together. You can build together. You're not too young. You're not too old. Yeah, y'all can build together. 32.
Okay. Being friends with an ex after marriage versus cutting it off.
Oh, I tried. My husband was like, absolutely hell no. It did not work. It didn't work. Don't do it. Don't do it. Reconsider.
I think you already answered this. Share a bank account with your spouse or keep your money divided?
Both. You need a shared account and you need your own account for a rainy day. Prepare to be disappointed. If it's time to go, pack your bags, put your money in the bag, and go.
What should someone look for in a divorce attorney?
Advocacy. Zealous advocacy. You want somebody who's going to fight for you, who's going to be a bulldog, whether they agree with you or not. Do the job I'm paying you to do. A bulldog.
And what is one expense people forget to plan for?
Divorce. Divorce is expensive. You have to plan for it, but also, more importantly, because I have children, college education, it comes very quickly. It happens so very fast that all of us think we're prepared for it, and you're not. College tuition, you need it.
Just to piggyback off that last question about divorce attorney and planning, is there any scenario where divorce is not expensive? Let's just say me and my husband, 2 years into it, we're like, it's not really working out. I like you. I think you're dope, but I'd like to go my way. And he's like, yeah, I want to go my way. and it's totally amicable, and there's no assets to split, and we just want to dissolve the marriage.
Super cheap. Do it that way. Super cheap. And I don't try to talk myself out of any money, but every time I get a divorce call, I say, can you not work it out? That's the first question. Are you sure?
Mhm.
Are you sure that this is what you want? Because if it is, if both of you all agree, fill out the paperwork and file at the courthouse for $237.52 and be done with it. Right? Because you all know what assets you have. You know what you're willing to split. Again, you don't want a third party to come in and tell you how the money should be disseminated. If you two have a better, if you two have a better understanding of where the money is, where the bodies reside. So if you all can do that amongst yourselves, it's cheap and it's better. And it ensures that everybody gets what they want. Because once you go to the courthouse and the judge is involved, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the baby. There's no guarantee you're going to get the house. There's no guarantee you're going to get the amount of child support that the father of your child was offering, right? He may be offering you more than you were supposed to get by law. He may be giving you more of his assets than you were supposed to get in law. You may be getting more in retirement than you were allowed to get by law. So again, it's contractual. If you all can contract how to divorce, you can contract also how to get married. That is what's best, because you don't want someone to come in and tell you how to live your life.
I think people have some confusion as well about annulment versus divorce. What is the difference between the two, and what are the circumstances in which you can get an annulment versus having to go through the entire divorce process?
Definitely two different things. So the annulment is generally based off of some lie or fraud, right? Generally the spouse is already married to someone else and so was not able to get married. So that's the second one. So the spouse lying about fraud is something different. Let's say he told you that he was a medical doctor and his name was John Brown and his real name is Constance Stanley, right? That is one reason for annulment. If you have someone was already married at one point, that is the basis for annulment. Short of that, because you decided that you woke up and you married the wrong person, you cannot get an annulment for that. He cheated on you the first day or within the first year of marriage, you cannot get an annulment for that. There are very, very limited circumstances, and I named 2 out of 3 for which you can get an annulment. Otherwise, you're going for a divorce. It will be considered a divorce. Or coercion is the fourth one. Is you were coerced, then obviously you could get an annulment if you're able to show the court that you were coerced or it was under duress that you got married.
Okay, that's fascinating. Brandi Reeves, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
I really love this
Thank you.
conversation. Yeah, and I hope that the audience got something out of it. I know there's some of you in these comments that are considering divorce, thinking about it. Well, if you're in the state of Georgia, you might want to you might want to hit up Brandi Reeves to handle your case, because she's a pit bull. And
your future's worth the fight. Never forget it.
That part. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Woo! If today's episode didn't make you rethink the business side of love, I don't know what will. I want to give a big thank you to Brandi Reeves for walking us through the fine print that so many couples never bother to read. Because the truth is, love may bring you to the altar, but paperwork determines how you walk away. Protect your heart, protect your future, and remember, clarity is not unromantic, it's smart. That's it for today's episode of Hot and Bothered. Remember, life is lived in the in-between, and that's usually where it gets the hottest. Until next time. Thank you for tuning into Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Please rate, subscribe, and comment, and share wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This season of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford is hosted, written, and executive produced by me for Forged Path Productions. This season was written and produced by Sebastian Godin, filming and editing done by Freddie Chica, Nicole Benante, the Bassi Group, and Emmanuel Martinez, and executive produced by Rachel DeSalvo.